Hey everyone, and welcome to the AI show from Brainwave Audio. It's your one-stop shop for all things AI. I'm so excited to kick off this deep dive. We're tackling a really hot topic today, right? How do we make sure that those super smart AI language models, how do we make sure they play by our rules? We've all seen those sci-fi movies where AI goes rogue.
Yeah.
But no worries, we've got an expert here who can break down all the science for us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. And aligning AI with human values is a huge challenge, but it's one of the most important things to get right if we want AI to be a force for good.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We've got this research paper, Direct Language Model Alignment from Online AI Feedback. Okay, I know that sounds a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
But stick with me. This paper is all about a new method called online AI feedback.
Right.
OAIF for short. But before we get into all the details of OAIF, can you give us a quick rundown of RLHF, the traditional approach?
Sure. RLHF stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback.
Okay.
And it's been the go-to method for aligning AI. So imagine you're trying to teach a dog a new trick.
Okay, yeah.
You give it treats when it does something right, and maybe a little scolding when it messes up.
Right.
RLHF works in a similar way. We train a separate reward model that learns what good looks like based on what humans say. Then we use this model to reward the AI when it generates responses that align with what humans prefer.
So basically, we're trying to teach AI right from wrong, just like we do with our pet.
Exactly. But there's a catch. This whole process of training a reward model is really expensive.
Okay.
And it takes a ton of time. Think about it. You need humans to label millions of AI responses as good or bad. And even then, the AI might just be memorizing those specific examples instead of really understanding the principles behind it.
That makes sense. It's like teaching a kid good manners by giving them a list of rules. They might ace a test on those rules, but still struggle to navigate real-world social situations.
Yeah.
So is that where OAIF comes in? Does it kind of address these limitations?
Absolutely. What's really interesting about OAIF is that it uses another large language model as a sort of AI tutor or mentor to provide feedback to the AI that's being trained. This tutor LLM doesn't need data that humans explicitly labeled. It can actually compare different responses generated by the AI and then pick the one that better aligns with whatever criteria we set, whether that's being helpful or harmless or whatever we decide.
Wait, hold on. So a smaller AI is training a bigger, more powerful one. Isn't that kind of like the student teaching the teacher?
It is a bit like that, and that's one of the most fascinating things about OAIF. It suggests that maybe we don't always need those massive resource-intensive models for every single stage of training. And this feedback happens in real time. So the AI can continuously adapt and learn from what it produces, kind of like a self-correcting system.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So instead of relying on humans to label everything beforehand, OAIF uses an AI tutor to guide the student AI towards better alignment in real time. But does this actually work? Did they test it out?
They did. And the results are impressive. The researchers tested OAIF on a few tasks like summarization, helpfulness, and harmlessness. And OAIF did consistently better than both offline methods and traditional RLHF, even when judged by AI evaluators and human raters. OAIF came out on top.
Wow, that's really promising. It sounds like OAIF could be a game changer for how we approach AI alignment. But you mentioned something earlier that caught my attention. You said distribution shift. What exactly is that, and how does OAIF handle it?
That's a great question. Distribution shift is a big challenge in AI alignment. It's basically when an AI performs well on the data it was trained on, but then it struggles when it encounters new data it hasn't seen before in the real world. Think about it like this. Imagine someone who aced their driving test in perfect conditions,
Right.
but then completely panics when it starts raining or gets dark. The AI is kind of similar. It can get thrown off by situations that are different from the data it was trained on.
That's a really helpful analogy. So how does OAIF help the AI handle those curveballs?
Yeah. Since OAIF gives feedback in real time, it lets the AI constantly adapt to its own evolving output.
Okay.
It's like having a driving instructor in the passenger seat, giving you feedback and helping you adjust to different conditions as you drive. This adaptability makes OAIF much better equipped to handle those real-world scenarios and avoid those distribution shift pitfalls.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm really curious about this whole idea of using a smaller AI as a tutor. Does that mean we might not always need those massive supercomputer-level AIs for training?
That's one of the most exciting implications of this research. The study found that even a relatively small LLM could be an effective tutor,
Wow.
which opens up possibilities for more accessible AI alignment solutions. It could really democratize AI development, allowing smaller teams and organizations to contribute to this crucial field without needing access to those giant resource-intensive models.
Now, that's something I can definitely get behind. Democratizing AI and making it more accessible. That's a future I'm excited about. But let's get back to this AI tutor for a second. Can we control what kind of feedback it gives? Like, can we tweak the instructions to nudge the AI towards specific behaviors?
You're talking about something called prompt controllability, and it's another key advantage of OAIF by just modifying the instructions that we give to the tutor AI.
Okay.
Researchers were able to guide the AI towards specific behaviors. For example, they could make the AI give shorter and more concise responses while still being helpful.
So it's like having a set of dials that let us adjust how the AI behaves. Want an AI that's super polite? Tweak the prompt.
Right.
Want one that gets straight to the point? Tweak the prompt again. The possibilities seem endless.
Exactly. And this level of fine-tuning is really exciting because it lets us align AI with a much wider range of human preferences and goals.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to admit, my brain is starting to feel a little overloaded.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground here. RLHF, OAIF, distribution shift, prompt controllability.
Or OAIF, and how it's changing the way we align those really powerful language models with our, human values. It's like having this super smart AI tutor guiding another AI to be more helpful, more harmless, and basically just a better digital citizen.
Okay. I'm still kind of processing all this AI, teaching AI stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely intrigued by it. So we talked about how OAIF deals with things like distribution shift, like when an AI freaks out in new situations. But you also mentioned this idea of AI actually learning from each other and getting better because of that, like a self-bootstrapping intelligence or something. That sounds pretty sci-fi to me.
Yeah.
But is it really possible?
It's definitely a mind-bending concept, and I think we're just starting to figure out what's really possible. Imagine a future where AI systems are constantly learning from each other and pushing each other to become more sophisticated and to better align with human goals.
That's both exciting and a little bit intimidating, to be honest. But hold on, let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
You've mentioned large language models, or LLMs.
Yeah.
Can you explain what those are for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term?
Absolutely. Think of LLMs as the brains behind those AI chatbots and text generators that you've probably seen online. They're basically massive neural networks that have been trained on tons and tons of text data, which allows them to understand and generate human language in a really impressive way. They're like the ultimate word wizards of the AI world.
So these LLMs are what's powering everything from those writing assistance tools to chatbots to those AI-generated news articles we see popping up everywhere. It's kind of hard to wrap my head around how powerful they're getting.
They're definitely getting more powerful, and that's exactly why this whole idea of AI alignment is so important. We need to make sure that these tools are used responsibly and ethically. But getting back to your question about AI self-bootstrapping, one way to think about it is through the lens of generative adversarial networks, or GANs.
GANs, another acronym. I feel like I need a glossary just to keep up with all this AI jargon. Can you break it down for me?
No worries. It's all part of the deep dive. Imagine two AIs going head-to-head in a game. Okay, so one AI is trying to make images that look real, and the other AI is trying to spot the fakes. This back-and-forth competition actually makes both AIs better and more sophisticated over time. That's the basic idea behind GANs.
So they're like sparring partners in the AI gym, constantly pushing each other to get better.
Right.
That's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
And you're saying this same principle could apply to AI alignment. Like, could we have AIs competing to become better aligned with human values?
Exactly. We could potentially set up systems where AIs are always evaluating each other. They're providing feedback to each other and pushing each other to become more ethical, more helpful, more in line with what we want.
Wow, that's a really profound idea. It's almost like we'd be creating an AI ecosystem where only the best and most aligned AIs would survive. Kind of like natural selection, but for artificial intelligence.
Right.
I'm really trying to wrap my head around all the implications here.
And that's where things get really interesting. Think about how this could solve some of those challenges we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Like, remember distribution shift? Or the AI freaks out in new situations. Well, if AIs are always learning from each other's experiences, they could become much more robust and versatile.
So it's not just about memorizing rules or specific examples. It's about really understanding human values and then being able to apply them to all kinds of different situations.
Exactly, and this could be really huge for AI safety and making it more reliable. Imagine AIs that aren't just following instructions, but they can actually anticipate problems, flag ethical concerns, and even suggest solutions that align with human values.
That's an incredible vision. But let's be realistic for a second. We've been talking about all these amazing possibilities.
Yeah.
But what about the potential problems? I mean, could this whole AI teaching AI thing lead to problems we haven't even thought of yet?
That's a really important question, and it's definitely something we need to think about. There are definitely some risks. For example, if we're not careful, this whole self-bootstrapping process could lead to what's called an AI echo chamber, where AIs kind of just start reinforcing each other's biases.
So we like being stuck in a filter bubble, but for AI.
Exactly.
They might start reinforcing each other's biases. And that could lead to a sort of AI groupthink.
That's a good way to put it. It's important to make sure this AI ecosystem is diverse and that we're including a lot of different human perspectives in the training process. We don't want to create AIs that are all thinking the same way.
That makes sense. We want AIs that are aligned with human values, but we also want them to be able to question our assumptions, offer new viewpoints, and help us see the world in different ways. We don't want a bunch of AI clones running around.
Exactly. Diversity is just as important in the AI world as it is in our world. And that brings us to another challenge. How do we make sure that this AI feedback loop is actually creating AIs that are good for humanity? How do we make sure they're not optimizing for the wrong things or pursuing goals that are against our own?
Those are some pretty big questions. Feels like we're getting into some serious philosophical territory here, not just technical stuff.
We are, and that's why this whole field of AI alignment is so fascinating and so important. It's not just about coding and algorithms, it's about understanding ourselves, our values, and what kind of future we want to create with these powerful tools.
I'm starting to see why you're so passionate about this. It's not just about the technology itself, but about the potential impact it could have on humanity, good or bad. But before we go too far down that road, I'm curious, are there any real-world examples of this AI teaching AI stuff happening? Or is this all still theoretical?
There are definitely some interesting real-world examples starting to emerge. For example, some researchers are using AI to create training data for other AIs. So they're basically trying to automate parts of that data labeling process.
So instead of relying on humans to label millions of images or text snippets, we could have AIs doing all the hard work.
Exactly. And there are even bigger projects going on. Some researchers are using AI to help design and even evaluate other AIs, basically creating a kind of AI-powered quality control system.
That's pretty wild. So we could have AIs acting like architects, engineers, and even critics for other AIs. It sounds like we're at the beginning of a whole new era of AI development, where AI is playing a much bigger role in shaping its own future.
I think you're right. And this leads us back to that question we asked before. If a smaller AI can guide a bigger one, could this be the start of a future where AI systems are constantly learning and improving from each other, leading to AI that's more aligned and beneficial for everyone?
It's a question that's both exciting and a little bit scary to think about.
Yeah.
But I think it's one we have to deal with as we navigate this uncharted territory of AI development.
I have to say, I'm still thinking about this idea of AIs teaching and critiquing each other. It's like they're forming their own little society with mentors and coaches and maybe even a bit of competition.
It really is a fascinating concept, and it shows how AI development is going beyond the old ways of human-led training. We're seeing AI taking a more active role in shaping how it evolves. Okay, so we've explored a lot of the potential benefits of this AI to AI feedback loop, how it can handle distribution shift, make AI more robust and versatile, and maybe even lead to some kind of intelligence that bootstraps itself. But let's talk about the risks. You know the elephant in the room. We talked about this AI echo chamber before, where AIs could reinforce each other's biases. What other concerns should we be thinking about?
There are definitely some really important things to consider. One concern is making sure that this AI feedback loop doesn't make the AIs focus on the wrong things.
Good, yeah.
For instance, imagine an AI that's supposed to write news articles. If it's only getting feedback from other AIs, it might prioritize things like clickbait headlines or sensationalized content, even if that's not good for accuracy or being objective.
It's like those social media algorithms that just care about getting people to click. even if it means spreading misinformation or harmful content. So how can we prevent that kind of thing from happening? How do we ensure that AIs are learning the right things from each other?
That's where humans come in. We need to provide oversight and guidance, even in this world of AI to AI feedback. We can't just let go completely. Humans need to be actively involved in setting the goals, defining the values, and making sure that the feedback is aligned with what we want from AI.
So it's not about letting AI do whatever it wants, but about finding a good balance between AI autonomy and human guidance.
Exactly. It's about using the power of AI to make development faster and explore new things, but also making sure that human values and ethics are always at the center.
That makes a lot of sense. We need to be the architects of this AI future, not just watching from the sidelines. But is all of this just speculation, or are there actual researchers and organizations working on these ideas?
This is definitely more than just theory. There are a lot of brilliant people working on AI alignment. For example, OpenAI. They created ChatGPT. They've been looking at ways to use AI to help humans evaluate other AIs. They're trying to build AI tools that can help us find problems and biases in AI systems much faster.
So like we'd have AI assistants to help us grade the AI students' homework.
Right. That's a really cool idea. Are there other organizations doing similar things?
Absolutely. There are so many research labs, startups, and even government agencies working on this, like the Alignment Research Center. They're focused on long-term AI safety and alignment, and they're exploring all kinds of different approaches, from mathematical frameworks to models inspired by cognitive science.
It's good to know that there are so many people dedicated to figuring this out. But where does all this lead? What's the ultimate goal of this future where AI teaches AI?
Well, the best case scenario is that we create AI systems that are not only powerful and smart, but also deeply aligned with human values.
Uh-huh.
Imagine AIs that can help us solve some of the world's biggest problems, like climate change and disease and poverty. AIs that can help us be more creative, understand the universe better, and maybe even understand ourselves better.
That's a really inspiring vision. But it also feels like a big responsibility. We're not just building cool gadgets. We're talking about shaping the future of intelligence. That's exactly right. And that's why this conversation about OAIF and AI alignment is so important. It's not just about the technical stuff. It's a conversation about our values, our hopes, and our fears about the future. And it's a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of.
That's a great point. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey into OAIF and AI alignment. It's been an amazing experience for me, and I hope our listeners feel the same way.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, this is just the start of the conversation. The world of AI is changing so fast, and there's still so much to explore and discover. So to all our listeners out there, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those brainwaves buzzing. We'll be back next week to dive into another fascinating part of the AI universe. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep imagining the possibilities.